Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto and I'm a photographer. And in this video I'm going to take a photo walk here in Pudu area in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And while I'm walking, I want to talk about how important and useful it is to share camera settings and tips and tricks and all kinds of tips and tricks. Because I got a really valuable tip from my audience just the other day. My camera and lens setup is this today, the Sony A7 Mark IV and this funny little 28mm lens. I'm gonna talk about the lens more in a bit. And I was originally going to take another lens camera combo altogether, but that tip from my audience made me want to use this lens again and more, because that tip solved the focusing problem with these manual focus lenses and this camera. Manual focusing with the Sony A7 Mark IV and fully manual lenses was so awkward that it made me dislike those manual focus lenses, and I did not want to use them anymore on my Sony A7 Mark IV. Even though I like manual focus lenses, I think they are great fun occasionally, not all the time. But anyway, that setting transformed my camera and now I want to use manual focus lenses again. And it's interesting how one little setting can really literally transform a camera. And that's one reason why it's important that we share our settings and what we know, because that can help others to make great pictures too.
Almost artistic.
Yes, it is. It's a creation.
Almost artistic.
It's an artistic creation.
Yeah.
Then I got another comment for another video, and in that video I'm sharing some settings for the Ricoh GR3 and 3X cameras. And in that comment, that person said that the video is just a clickbait because all those settings can be found in the user manual. And of course they can be found in the user manual, but modern cameras are so full of features and it's so easy to forget some of the settings that you don't use frequently, and after a while you don't even remember your camera had those settings, and one day you want those settings or you need those settings, and again you don't even know or remember that your camera has those settings. And then maybe you come across a video on YouTube or a blog post or something, and in that specific video or blog post someone is explaining those settings for your camera. And that's another reason why it's important to share settings, and it's not a clickbait, even though they can be found in the manual. And not everyone reads the manual. They want to have another kind of like a tutorial, and sometimes those manuals are so convoluted and it's sometimes hard to find the setting that you are looking for. Manual focus lens takes forever to...
Okay, so carb is quite slow.
Today I'm using a manual focus lens because that one setting brought the joy back in manual focusing with this camera. And this is the 7 Artisans 28mm f5.6 lens. This is a Leica M mount lens that I'm using with an adapter on my Sony A7 IV.
Photo. Yeah, they're wondering why you're shooting.
Although I have to say that focusing this lens is not always so easy, because The maximum aperture is f5.6 and this is a 28mm wide angle. There's plenty of depth of field all the time and it's sometimes difficult to see where the peak focus is. A fast aperture lens is so much easier to focus because of the shallow depth of field. You can see right away where the peak focus is. Image quality is actually pretty decent on this lens, at least on a 33 megapixel camera like the A7 IV, and especially if you consider the very affordable price. This goes for about $250 US. The build quality is also pretty decent. It's all metal construction, no plastic parts whatsoever, and everything feels nice and tight. This lens looks a bit funny on the Sony A7 Mark IV, and this would probably be much more at home on a Leica M camera. But nonetheless, this is a really fun little lens, especially if you are into 28mm and manual focus lenses. As you can see, there is someone behind me. You probably know who that is. Let's ask Robin what he thinks about 28mm lens.
Hello again, Matti people. This is Robin Wong. I'm a photographer in Kuala Lumpur. Happy to be here. Matti is asking about my thoughts on the 28mm lens. Well, I actually quite like 28mm. I think wide angle is a necessity in photography. When you need wide angle, you need wide angle. And I can work with 28mm. I think it's just the right balance of being not too wide and wide enough to just fit what you need in a frame. For street photography, if I need wide angle, 28mm is a good choice. I don't really like 35mm, like this Olympus 17mm lens. I think it's in the middle of nowhere. If I want to go wide, I go really wide, like 28mm. Or if I want to go narrower, if I want to go tighter, then I go for 15mm perspective. And I typically use 28mm for environmental portraits, shots of people with a little bit of context in the background to tell a better story.
There is one major downside though, and that is the minimum focusing distance, which is 1 meter. Yes, 1 meter. And that is very long for a 28mm wide angle, and because of that, it's not possible to make any kind of close-ups or tight close-ups. And also because of that, it's not possible to create much bokeh either. First of all, because the maximum aperture is f5.6. At normal focusing distances, you get so much depth of field that there's hardly any bokeh in any situation. And because of the 1 meter minimum focusing distance, you can't get close enough to create that, close-up bokeh. You may want to ask why the minimum focusing distance is 1 meter and not 0.3 meters, which would be more normal for a 28mm lens. Well, it's because this is a rangefinder lens, and with a rangefinder camera, you can't really shoot tight close-ups because of the parallax error. You may think that a lens like this makes no sense. Slow maximum aperture, manual focus. But I like to use these quirky lenses every once in a while, occasionally. Not all the time, of course. And a lens like this can make you rethink your photography. It can make you realize that you can actually take photos, even decent photos, without all the modern bells and whistles. I'm not saying that auto settings and convenience features are evil. I'm only saying that sometimes it's good to slow down a little bit and realize that you can make pictures without all those convenience features, and photography is not about camera features or auto settings and things like that. And there was photography long before we got all these modern features like AI autofocus and super fast burst speed, dual card slots and whatnot. Get out of my picture. You're spoiling my scene.
I'm the main subject.
In your dreams. You know, Robin, it's not all about you.
It's about me.
And here's another question for Robin. How do you, Robin, feel about sharing tips and tricks and camera settings? Is that useful?
Matti, I personally think that sharing is very important in anything, especially photography. When I started out as a photographer, I knew nothing. I'm a self-taught photographer, so I depended on websites like digitalphotography.com or dpreview.com or a lot of sites out there to learn about photography, the basics, the fundamentals, how the camera works, how to control the camera, the rules of composition, or even some hidden settings on the camera that I was using. I learned all this and I'm able to become a better photographer because someone else shared these tips and tricks to help me improve my photography. So paying it forward, now I'm a photographer, I have a platform, I have a blog and a YouTube. Of course, I will do the same to continue on to share as much as I can my knowledge, my experience, tips and tricks on how to optimize the camera settings so that other people can enjoy photography as well. My mission or the things that I'm trying to do is to get everyone to shoot more. If you can enjoy photography, if you can use the camera a little bit better, that will make me very happy. So yes, Matti, I think sharing is extremely important.
And now the problem that I had with manual focus lenses, fully manual lenses, and this camera. I like to use the magnified view to be able to focus better, and I activate that by pressing a button with my thumb. And the problem was that I could not get back to the default view by touching the shutter. I had to press this same button 2 more times every time I wanted to get back to the default view. And that was simply too many steps and very annoying. And here is that one little setting that transformed the manual focus behavior on my Sony A7 Mark IV. I wrote it down so I remember to say it, everything. So first, of course, you go to the menu, then you select AF settings, and then you select Focus Assistant, then you select AF in focus magnification, and you turn that off, and then after that it works like a dream. And I want to say big thanks to my audience, and especially those people who shared this tip with me. I learn a lot from you guys all the time, believe it or not, and I think it's really great, and I hope you are learning something from my videos too. It's such a great thing to share settings and things that we know, and I think it benefits everyone. That is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this little photo walk here in Pudu, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And if you did enjoy this, if you found this useful and helpful, please do consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below for that if you don't live in Finland. Thank you so much, and I'll definitely see you in the next video.